just wanted to show you this as well.
About me? I didn't even fight last night. Just Dana.
Do you have any updates about the eye of Tom Aspinall, and is there a rematch in the works?
Oh, Jesus. Don't let me talk about Tom Aspinall's eye. Apparently he's going in for a second surgery or just had it, and by surgery I mean injections. I have no idea. Get a quote from him. God forbid I say something about it.
Tom Aspinall just dropped a bombshell that's about to tear the UFC apart, and what he revealed about his vision problems will shock you to your core. This isn't just another fighter complaining about contracts or money. This is a man whose eyesight is literally being destroyed by the sport, and the way the UFC is handling it exposes everything wrong with how they treat their biggest stars.
How close did you think you were to...
Here's your quote.
Catching strays, aren't I? Catching strays in my own living room on a Sunday morning.
Listen closely, because when Aspinall makes his return to that octagon, you're going to witness a completely transformed fighter. The laid-back, friendly guy you think you know. That persona is about to vanish completely. What's emerging instead is something primal, focused, and ready for war in a way that leaves zero room for pleasantries. And here's what's wild: this transformation isn't happening because he's desperate or broken. It's happening because he's finally realized his true worth and refuses to be controlled by a system that's literally robbing him of his sight. The friendly Tom Aspinall was playing by their rules. The new Tom Aspinall is about to rewrite the entire game.
The reports are out. UFC asked Tom Aspinall to vacate the title until he was ready to go. He said he'd be willing to vacate the title as long as they released him. Now, that opens the door so he can go ahead and box. This is a really weird situation. The heavyweight division is just a total shit show right now. And it's been a shit show since the John Jones coming in, not wanting to fight, the interim champion, which was Tom Aspinall at the time, and then fighting Stipe. No disrespect to Stipe, but it was just, John had something in mind, and the UFC didn't squash that. They allowed that fight to happen, and it just led into this thing where the heavyweight division's been on hold since the John Jones, what do we call it? Bottom line is, Jailton Almeida is gone. Okay, they just released him. Tom Aspinall, he is gone. John Jones doesn't seem like he's coming back, especially not to the heavyweight division. We have a mess. We have a disaster on our hands. The heavyweight division and the 205-pound division, the light heavyweight division, both weight classes are the worst that they've ever been. And these used to be the pillars. This used to be what would carry the promotion. When the merger of Strikeforce and the UFC happened, the heavyweight division had ever been. And the light heavyweight division, honestly, UFC was built off of the light heavyweight division. This is wild to me, man. The 135, 145, 155, and 170 right now are of MMA and definitely carrying the UFC. More to come.
Right, and I'm not defending Tom because I'm a friend of his, and I don't really even talk to Tom very much. We're not even friends like that. I was always an admirer of Tom's work, and I believed in his potential. A lot of people are talking shit.
But here's where it gets absolutely insane. Tom Aspinall isn't just another fighter on the roster begging for opportunities. He represents an unstoppable force of pure skill and devastating power that the UFC is terrifyingly close to losing forever. If you're sitting there thinking he's just looking for another paycheck, you're completely missing what's really happening here. This is a fighter with unmatched strategic intelligence and brutal finishing ability who's done playing the promotion's games. And when a talent of this magnitude gets mismanaged by the UFC brass, the damage he's capable of unleashing on their entire heavyweight division is absolutely catastrophic. We're talking about a guy who stepped in on short notice, destroyed Sergey Pavlovich, and claimed the interim title like it was nothing. That's not someone looking for an easy way out. That's a predator who's tired of being caged.
To say, whoa, never mind the fight, I can't see. And then the crowd turned on him. And then this is where a lot of people are saying that he's milking it. Okay, after the fight, they showed footage at the hospital and getting looked at by the doctors, and everyone was like, oh, you're milking it. And then I'm going to go through some of the comments on Twitter in a minute. The same kind of thing there, right? And maybe he was, right? Maybe there was a little truth to that, because I understand it, by the way, because he wants to show the world, hold on a minute, I'm the victim here. I'm the guy that got poked in the eye. I'm not the person out there that's committing the fouls. I had two things.
Now here's the part that's going to blow your mind. The real fight isn't happening inside the octagon anymore. It's the brutal war between Aspinall and the system that's trying to control him. The instant you try to play victim in this high-stakes game, crafting narratives that are already designed to defeat you, that's when you lose everything. But Aspinall isn't playing victim. He's operating with that champion's mentality, that relentless drive to win that defines fighters at the absolute summit of this sport. You think he's pushing for his UFC departure because he's somehow broken or defeated? Think again. This is strategic warfare at its highest level.
Back, and I was dying to, because the fight was a close fight. And yeah, Tom's nose was busted up, and Cyril Gane was looking really good. But as fans, is that not what we want? Do we not want to see exciting fights? Do we not want to see back and forth competitive match?
And get this, while you're watching him get battered and thrown around that cage, a part of you is loving every second of that vicious power struggle. It's not just a fight, it's a raw exhibition of violence that reveals who truly deserves their place in this unforgiving sport. But here's what you need to understand about fighters like Tom Aspinall. While you're cheering for your favorite, he's calculating the hidden costs of every exchange. He's looking beyond the immediate glory, past the crowd's fleeting approval. Real fight intelligence isn't just about winning rounds or landing crushing blows. It's about understanding the true price of every wound, every concussion, every moment of brain trauma that accumulates over a career.
See legendary matchups as fans. We want to see good matchmaking. We want to see two guys that are the best in the world going toe-to-toe and pushing each other to the limit. And that's what we saw, right? It was a competitive.
But wait, it gets worse. When a premier heavyweight contender makes the strategic choice to step back, it's never a sign of weakness. It's often the smartest decision a true warrior can make, someone who understands his own value and knows when the potential prize isn't worth the long-term destruction. Aspinall has looked beyond the next bloody nose, past the immediate pain and adrenaline rush, and he's seen something that should terrify every UFC fan. He's seen what this sport is doing to his most precious asset, his vision. And that's where this story takes a turn that nobody saw coming.
A lot of the public fan base has had to say, now granted, this is on Twitter, right? And we know Twitter is a bit of a cesspool of negativity and toxicity, right? I'm sure if we looked at the Instagram comments, it'd be a little more positive. But look at these guys. First of all, Grok, is this real? Come on, man. You really think the heavyweight champion of the world is out there? He's going to fake something like this? He's going to put some, like, I don't know, eye drops in his eyes and be playing a whole stunt? No, we all saw the eye pokes. We all saw the aftermath. We all saw the fallout. We all saw the appointments with the doctors. And now we're seeing 4 months later the fact that he's had surgery.
Here's the brutal reality that's driving everything. You want those legendary battles where fighters push themselves to the absolute edge of human limits, right? But here's the truth nobody talks about. For the fighters themselves, that edge often ends directly in the hospital with permanent, life-altering injuries. For Tom, this isn't about enduring one more fight or surviving another brutal exchange. It's about a sacred desire to compete at the highest level while he's being unfairly barred from the opportunities he's earned. Real greatness isn't handed to you on a silver platter. It's forged by the chances you take to overcome not just your opponents in the cage, but the very system that tries to limit your potential.
That he didn't even do. If anything, people should be more pissed at Cyril Gane. And then underneath that, Tommy's milking this shit, but hey, it is what it is. He wanted out of the UFC and got his chance. Now he'll sue for a few mil, and that will be that. And we can go on all day, we can go through it, but you get the general consensus, you know? I mean, fake, they said, right, I don't know. Listen, at the end of the day, these guys are talking out their arse. What do you mean he wanted out? This man has worked his way up. The man became the interim heavyweight champion of the world by stepping up on short notice and taking out Sergey Pavlovich.
Now listen to this part because it's absolutely crucial. The strongest enemy a fighter faces isn't found inside the octagon. It's the politics, the limitations, and the backroom dealings that restrict their ability to reach their full potential. You were there for that stomach-churning injury, weren't you? You followed his journey through months of painful rehabilitation, witnessing the grueling surgery and recovery process. And yet after all that, people still sit there talking about schemes and deceptions. This isn't some movie set with special effects enhancing the drama. This represents a man's actual life, his real bones, his irreplaceable future hanging in the balance every time he steps into that savage pit of violence.
he's done to the majority of his opponents. And yeah, you know, he had a couple of things that week with the DC and saying he was going to boxing and all that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, the fight was looking like a really, really good one. Now, I was excited for the rematch, and there's still been no talk of a rematch. Because, of course, there hasn't. How can you have a rematch when one half of the matchup is still going through medical clearance, still trying to get his vision back? And in fact, if we read out the actual statement from the doctor, this was an Instagram post, and this is what was written, but it was like written in third person. I think Tom shared it or something like that. It says, after his highly publicized...
Hold up, did you catch what just happened? The sheer audacity of some people to dismiss that harsh reality is absolutely staggering. It's not just ignorance, it's a direct slap in the face to every fighter who pours their blood, sweat, and tears into this sport for your entertainment. And we're hearing this disrespect from people who don't grasp the profound cost of what these athletes sacrifice. This raw offering of self is exactly why someone like Tom Aspinall has earned his standing and respect in this sport. It's not just about the physical pain or broken bones. It's about the spirit-crushing agony of having your dedication questioned and dismissed as fake.
We've been working closely with him on his recovery. Following his operation on both eyes, we continue the journey to get Tom's vision back to fighting fitness, right? Now, let's talk about that. What is fighting fitness? Well, I know this very well. The benchmark for having fighting fitness...
Here's the kicker: when you pledge your entire life to the sport you love, only to have people dismiss your commitment as fabricated, that creates a unique type of injury that goes far deeper than any physical damage. It attacks the very heart of your warrior spirit and makes you question everything. Is my courage real? Is my dedication genuine? That's where true champions separate themselves from pretenders. They endure despite this betrayal and keep fighting for what they believe in. Aspinall recognizes the immeasurable price this demands. And the question is, do you truly comprehend its devastating impact on a fighter's psyche?
200 vision, all you gotta get is the top letter, the big old massive one, and then the two relatively big ones underneath that. If you can read those three letters, you have 2200 vision. I know this because I cheated the eye test many times to go on and have my legendary career, where I did end up in the Hall of Fame and with a few belts and stuff like that, right? So I know what I'm talking about. So to get Tom's vision back to fighting fitness means he's got to have 2200 vision.
But here's where everyone gets it completely wrong. You're hearing those whispers that Tom Aspinall wants to leave the UFC entirely, right? Let me state this in absolutely clear terms. You've misunderstood his character completely. This is not a fighter's mentality of someone looking to escape. This is a person who, on incredibly short notice, dove headfirst into terrifying competition against a monster like Sergey Pavlovich and seized the interim championship in dominant fashion. That's not someone seeking an easy way out. That's the definition of a predator relentlessly hunting its prey.
Mine would say to me that the operation has been a success, so now it just is a matter of time before Tom to rest up, to heal from the surgery, and then come back and rematch Cyril Gane. But how long will that be? Because the one thing that you can't do, and I've said this in multiple other videos, you cannot rush this. When you rush back too soon, things can go wrong. When you operate on something, you weaken it. Anytime you go in there and drill or cut and slice and mess about with it, you weaken it. So you have to allow it a lot of time to restore, to heal 100.
And here's what's really happening behind the scenes. While ordinary contenders might seek simple deals or easy paths, a real champion like Aspinall is driven by something far more powerful, an unyielding drive that defines his very existence. He's not looking to escape the octagon. He's looking to completely master everything within it. True champions don't want to abandon the fight. They hunger for the next battle, the next challenge, all the glory without compromise. But they want it on terms that don't literally rob them of their ability to see.
All the negative comments on Twitter and Instagram and all these dickheads online, because they don't know what they're talking about at the end of the day. You'll be back at some point. I look forward to it. I look forward to the rematch with Cyril Gane, and then you'll get used to all this shit again. Everyone coming out the woodwork and talking crap. Anyway, what do you guys think about everything that I just said? What do you think about Tom's situation? Do you think they're going to bring in an interim champion? Is it going to be Cyril Gane versus Alex Pereira, something like that? I really don't know. But what do you think? As I say, always say, let me know in the comment section and subscribe.
You talk about... Now here's the part that changes everything. The brutal reality driving this entire situation is that the sport is literally stealing a man's eyesight. You heard that right. Aspinall is waiting for doctors' approval because his vision is currently impaired from the damage he sustained. This isn't performance or theater. This is the cruel, undeniable price of competing at the absolute pinnacle of this sport. And this is precisely why he's seeking a path with zero compromises.
Fighting the best people on the planet. So it's not that he was looking for a way out, it's that he got double poked in the eye. And now, as we say, here we are, 4 months later, the man has had surgery. Not one, apparently he's had 2, right? And you can see the damage on the eyeballs, right? Anytime they mess with the eyes, I've had multiple eye surgeries, right? I lost my retina. You all know this story by now if you're new to the channel and you haven't seen this yet, right? Yeah, I lost an eyeball and I had a lot of surgery.
Let me engrave this fact into your mind. Fighters compete for moments of fleeting glory, but champions must live with the consequences for their entire lives. Every fighter, no matter their toughness or iron will, has a breaking point. When the concern isn't just the pain of a single fight, but the terrifying prospect of permanent blindness, the entire situation changes fundamentally. The focus isn't simply on a championship anymore. It's about choosing your ultimate fate before the cage permanently robs you of your sight forever. Here's something that might shock you. When you hear a figure like 20,200, that cold, clinical measurement, don't be deceived by what seems like an impersonal metric. What it reveals is the exact measure of a warrior's resolve being pushed to its absolute limit. This is the hidden toll that's forcing a man like Tom Aspinall to redefine his future. He's not just physically recovering his vision, he intimately understands the enormous sacrifice required to keep risking his well-being in that octagon. And this understanding separates elite fighters from everyone else. Every fighter wants the excitement and triumph that comes with competition. But truly elite combatants, those with superior fight IQ, recognize that sometimes a great fighter's smartest move involves knowing when to strategically choose their battles and their arena. You're not witnessing a beast retreating in fear. You're observing a calculated strategic withdrawal. Aspinall isn't retreating in defeat. He's considering a winner's option. A decision stemming from unmatched foresight that most fighters can only dream of possessing. But here's where the critics completely miss the point. Some voices argue that champions don't need perfect vision in battle, that they see only what's essential, push through adversity, and seize victory regardless of physical limitations. When Aspinall speaks of vision problems, they claim it's not about needing perfect eyesight, but about having unshakable fighting instincts and that fierce martial drive that propels you past any obstacle. Their argument: if you're seeking an escape when the battle demands greater focus, you're not a genuine champion, just a competitor who lost the will to win. Yet that viewpoint completely overlooks the tactical intelligence of a genuine champion. Let's be brutally honest here. Every injury you heal from, every grueling training session you endure, drains your strength piece by piece. If you return too early, you don't just risk a crushing defeat, you jeopardize your entire career foundation. This isn't a game. It's an existential fight for your future. This insight clarifies why Aspinall's desire for freedom burns with such persistent passion. He's more than just a fighter. He's a meticulous strategist who feels this reality in his bones. Now get this. He's not fighting against a single potential loss or bad matchup. He's fighting against the devastating notion of undermining his entire legacy and hard-earned reputation. When the powers that be command you to fight while injured and compromised, you have to question whether you're truly in control of your destiny or just being set up as a victim in their plan. And that's the brutal reality of being what Aspinall calls a caged predator, injured, watching your division advance while you're confined to the sidelines, completely inactive. Here's what you don't understand about the champion's mentality. Sometimes it's not about battling the next opponent in the octagon. It's about confronting the very system that halts your progress and restricts your potential. Do you think the UFC wants an injured, frustrated competitor sitting inactive on the sidelines, boiling with resentment? This isn't some desperate plea. It's a deliberate action by someone who understands his value in this unforgiving sport. And here's the evidence that proves everything I've been telling you. Those weren't simple everyday injuries we witnessed. They displayed the savage truth of this sport, striking deep into a fighter's optic nerve and threatening to permanently end his career. A fighter's courage is undeniable, but what value does pure willpower hold if your most crucial weapon, your vision, is permanently damaged? When you think that's a coward avoiding battle, you're missing the point entirely. That's a peak-level competitor, confronting the harsh reality of competing with damaged sight. So there you have it. Tom Aspinall isn't running from the UFC or abandoning his championship dreams. He's fighting the most important battle of his career, the fight for his right to compete on terms that won't literally blind him. This isn't just about one fighter's contract dispute. This is about whether the UFC values their athletes as human beings or just disposable entertainment for our bloodthirsty appetites. And honestly, the way this plays out could determine the future of fighter safety and rights across the entire sport. Here's my question for you, drop it in the comments. Do you think fighters should have the right to protect their long-term health, even if it means walking away from big fights? If this breakdown opened your eyes to what's really happening behind the scenes, smash that like button, subscribe for more insider analysis, and hit that notification bell because this story is far from over. I'll see you in the next one. But you know what's really eating at me about this whole situation? The UFC's silence is deafening. When one of their most promising heavyweight talents is literally going blind from competing in their octagon, where's the public support? Where's the medical transparency? Instead, we're getting radio silence while Aspinall sits in limbo, his career hanging by a thread. This isn't just poor business, it's a moral failure that exposes how expendable they consider their own champions. And here's what makes this even more infuriating. While Tom's waiting for medical clearance, watching his prime years tick away, the UFC is out there promoting other fights like nothing happened. They're building storylines around fighters who haven't accomplished half of what Aspinall has achieved. Meanwhile, the man who demolished Pavlovich in devastating fashion is being treated like damaged goods. That's not just disrespectful, it's strategic sabotage of their own heavyweight division. Think about the precedent this sets for every fighter watching this unfold. If the UFC won't protect a champion-level talent like Aspinall when his vision is compromised, what message does that send to everyone else on the roster? It tells them that their long-term health means nothing compared to the promotion's immediate profit margins. This creates a culture of fear where fighters feel pressured to compete injured or risk being forgotten entirely. But here's where Tom's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. By speaking out publicly about his vision problems, he's forcing the UFC's hand. He's making it impossible for them to quietly push him into a fight he shouldn't take. This isn't just about protecting himself, it's about setting a standard for how fighters should be treated when their health is genuinely at risk. That takes incredible courage in a sport that often punishes fighters for showing any sign of vulnerability. And let's talk about what vision problems actually means for a heavyweight fighter. We're not talking about needing reading glasses here. In a division where one perfectly timed punch can end your consciousness permanently, having compromised eyesight is like entering a gunfight blindfolded. Your depth perception, peripheral vision, ability to track multiple threats, all of that becomes compromised. Yet some keyboard warriors are out there questioning whether his concerns are legitimate. Here's the brutal mathematics of fighting with damaged vision. Your reaction time slows down because your brain has to work harder to process what your eyes are telling it. Your distance management becomes unreliable, meaning you can't accurately judge when you're in striking range or when you need to defend. Your ability to see combinations coming gets severely compromised. In a sport measured in milliseconds, these seemingly small impairments become the difference between victory and a career-ending knockout. But what's really grinding my gears is how some fans are actually criticizing Aspinall for prioritizing his health. These are probably the same people who would never step into a boxing gym, let alone face a professional heavyweight, yet they're questioning the medical decisions of a world-class athlete. The audacity is staggering. This man has already proven his courage by stepping up on short notice against killers. His bravery is not in question here. The reality is that Tom Aspinall is setting a new standard for how elite fighters should handle their careers. Instead of being a yes-man who takes whatever scraps the promotion throws his way, he's demanding the respect and medical consideration his achievements have earned. This isn't entitlement, it's professionalism. He's treating his career like the multi-million-dollar business it should be, not like some gladiator spectacle where he's expected to die for our entertainment.